What up, my fellow NBA lovers? This is your guy Marcellus Ease, and this will be part 2 of my series, How Loyal Will the Rockets Remain to James Harden? And pretty much the trade of Robert Covington had a chain reaction as because it's clearly obvious that Tillman Fertitta is trying to save salary because the salary that Covington was getting was pretty much guaranteed until 2022. But getting Trevor Ariza now, his salary isn't even guaranteed for this upcoming season. But in that trade, the Rockets were able to secure 2 first-round picks, especially for this upcoming draft with the 16th overall pick. And now James Harden is scratching his head, asking himself, shit, where should I go from here? Now, it's said that the Rockets offered James Harden a 2-year, over $100 million extension. Now, looking further into the details of that extension, they really didn't really offer that. What they did is basically say, hey, James Harden, you have 2 years left, including a player option. Why don't you pick up that option and we'll give you 2 more years on top? So not even including this season, they'll lock him in for about 4 more years. Once again, it's a tricky situation here. We're seeing James Harden even on his Instagram on Monday night talking about everything that's rumored is pretty much cap, aka a lie. We'll see what it is. It is what it is, but pretty much right now we're scratching our heads wondering how loyal will the Harden or even the Rockets remain to each other. You guys check out this segment, and every once in a while I'll check in.
James Harden has reportedly turned down a 2-year extension with the Rockets that would have made him the first player in NBA history to earn $50 million per year.
Now remember, he has to pick up that 3rd year. So basically he'll be locked in for 3 more years with 2 more years on top of that. That's when that 100 mil, that 50 mil per year would kick in. So he would have to be committed. And once again, how loyal will Harden or the Rockets remain committed to each other?
Harden has apparently made it clear to ownership his goal now is to force a trade to join up with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in Brooklyn. However, Harden is still under contract until at least 2022, so Houston has no incentive to take any bad deal in exchange for the former MVP. Shannon, there's a lot here. How does this play out?
Well, Skip, well, kind of James Harden has him over a barrel. Skip, they moved heaven and earth to get Russell Westbrook, so they traded Chris Paul and gave up first-round draft picks to get Russ. So they don't really have a whole lot. And so now James Harden, because you built the roster around James Harden, James Harden wants out. So when you turn down $50 million, Skip, what has happened is that your
AKA he turned down the longevity to remain with the team.
top players, you know, back in the day, back in the 80s, only a handful of guys, maybe Jordan, Bird, had shoe deals. Skip, now you got the top 10 guys got shoe deals, which allows them to say, nah, I ain't taking that, bro. I want to go here, get me here, or else. Now, as Jenny read, they are no obligation because they got him for 3 more years, Skip. So they got him. It's not like, okay, well, I'm going to sign it after next year. I'm going to play this year out, and I'm going to bounce. No. Then they still have him 2 more years after that. But because he seems to have he wants out so bad, and Houston is starting to disassemble, they traded Robert Covington. Russ says, I want out. Now, you're not going to get the compensation back that you gave up to get Russ. Now, I'm looking at Milwaukee and what they got for True Holiday. Oh, Skip, I'm going to need me about 7, 8 first-round picks. I'm going to need me about 4 or 5. Skip.
Which that's not happening. You could relate this to the Kobe Bryant situation when he wanted out of the Lakers to go to Chicago. And then Jerry Buss had told him, you know, I can't trade a bunch of regular Nissan cars or whatever it is for one Ferrari. It didn't make any sense. Or he didn't need a bunch of Mercedes Benz. He just needed the one big luxury car. And he said that was Kobe Bryant. So that wasn't happening. And he told Kobe Bryant's ass to report to training camp.
True Holiday can get basically what Anthony Davis got. What you think Houston's going to want for James Harden? James Harden's the top 3 or 4 player in all the NBA. And so I'm going to want this kind of compensation. I don't know what Tillman Fertitta thought. I don't know, Skip, if he said, you know what, hey, there's a new sheriff in town, and I'm going to do things my way.
AKA the cheap way. You know, this situation with Tillman Fertitta, he's one of many owners right now that's hurting financially because of the pandemic. A lot of his casinos, his hotels, they can't really operate because tourism, of course, is down. And ever since he purchased the team, he's been operating on the cheap side. And James Harden, he's seeing that. And remind you, James Harden, he came from cheap ownership. Originally, when he came into the league in OKC, Those owners are very cheap. They left the city of Seattle over $200 million when those guys are billionaires. And we seen how they moved when it came to pay up James Harden.
Don't do things your way. The NBA is different than any other sport, Skip. When you make moves, coaching or players, you better talk to your top player or your top two players, or this is how it's going to end. The report is that he didn't run anything by James Harden. The moves that he was making, he didn't run that by Harden.
Yeah, because it's not Harden's issue. Tillman Fertitta knows his pockets, man. And right now, it's not deep at all.
Harden wasn't having it. He says, I see everybody else. I see LeBron James. I see Giannis. I see Steph Curry. I see Brown. I see KD. All of them get situations run by them. I'm equal to. Skip, I don't know how this is going to play out because Kyrie and James Harden, and what's going to start to happen. You see now, I'm reading the papers and I see all the headlines. Should KD want to play with James Harden? Kyrie said, wait a goddamn minute. It was my idea to begin with. And now y'all already done cut me out before the man get here.
You know, that's a very interesting dynamic because James Harden completely plays the space on the court where Kyrie is all the time. So I'm wondering how that's even going to work. But once again, James Harden got on his Instagram and he said, no cap, man. I mean, he didn't particularly say it, but he showed the visuals of it. No cap. So we're not even sure if any of this is true. But once again, the Rockets, how committed are they going to remain to Harden and vice versa?
Skip, you see what's brewing on the horizon. James Harden, they're going to have to move him. He's causing too big of a stink already. Now, they don't have to, but I believe they will move him.
Me personally, I believe they're trying not to move him because James Harden is basically the cash cow of the Houston Rockets right now. Particularly, they're going to want to sell tickets. This is a really bad time for all of a sudden for Tillman Fertitta to be taking all these hits to not even have his star at the end of it, help him sell tickets and get this franchise back to where they're supposed to be at financially. Especially they took the hit with the China situation with Del Morey. So I don't think Tillman Fertitta is going to be quick to give up on James Harden.
I'm going to want a king's ransom. I'm going to want the players, the Allen, the Jared Allen, the Spencer Dinwiddie, the Karis LeVert, and give me about four first-round picks. Because Drew Holiday got 3 first-round picks and 2 players.
Yep. Okay, you done?
I'm done.
But that's a major different situation because Drew Holiday wasn't asking to be traded. See, that's the one thing. When it gets out that the player wants out, his value kind of diminishes. So we'll see how this plays out.
All right, my turn. First of all, I dispute your contention that James Harden has the Rockets over a barrel. I believe the Rockets now have the whole league over a barrel, including James Harden, because the signal was, as you point out, the Robert Covington trade said to me, NBA, we are starting over.
Right.
So they're going to look for an exit for Russell Westbrook, and I have no idea what that is. I don't know how you get out from under that. That's going to be much harder to do than the flip side of this, which is the James Harden trade.
See, that's a major thing in the league right now. We're seeing it play out for the first time this offseason where you have guys on hometown max deals, a.k.a. Russell Westbrook. He's on the max deal that was initially initiated by OKC, and then James Harden is also on a max deal initiated by the Houston Rockets. So the Rockets right now have both of those contracts, and both of those guys are kind of rumored to being asked to be moved. We're not sure if all this is verified. We know Russell Westbrook for sure wants out, but I'm not sure about James Harden quite yet. But it'll be very interesting to see how these max contracts are going to get moved. Because right now, a lot of owners, especially without fans being in the stands right now, they don't want to hit a certain threshold in that luxury tax.
That was my point. You're not going to get back for Russ what you gave up to get him.
No way.
You got CP3. You gave up CP3, but you get Russ, and you gave up 2 draft picks.
Okay, so now it looks like it's going to be an all-out auction for James Harden.
Yes.
So the Rockets will say, come one, come all, what you got? And James Harden, as we know, he hasn't been a winning basketball player, but he has been a revolutionary basketball player.
He's been box office.
AKA box office, just like how Shannon said. And that's what it's pretty much all about for Tillman Fertitta.
He is huge box office. When he plays, I watch.
Yes.
Even more than Russell Westbrook.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When
So I'm pretty much assuming that Tillman Fertitta is probably thinking on his end, even if he get rid of some of the role players that are bitching about their roles, like PJ Tucker, Austin Rivers, at least, fans are still going to come in, buy jerseys of James Harden because he's pretty much the cash cow. That's why they're offering him all that money, 50 mil per year at the end of his deal. How much money do you think that they're making on the back end on that?
Harden plays, I know it could be 50, it could be 60, it could be 40 free throws. It could be something I have never seen before.
Right.
And he's still writing. He's in his prime at 31. He's played 11 years, so he's starting to creep toward the backside of his career. But does he have another couple of MVP caliber? You better believe he does. So it's rare that a player like this comes on the open market via trade.
Yeah.
This isn't free agency, obviously. So all of a sudden, it's everybody's going to come with their best shot.
Right.
And somebody might come with a better.
Allegedly, I have to see what teams are initially coming out with their best shot. Because like I said, a lot of teams, they're avoiding that luxury tax hole. We see OKC avoiding it. Indiana Pacers are avoiding it. There's quite a few teams avoiding these luxury tax, tiers. And James Harden is definitely going to put a lot of teams over that. And I'm wondering why the Bucks, with a generational talent like Giannis, is not going all out and trying to get James Harden here.
Shot than the Nets. So then it will come down to how much clout does James Harden have, because they got him under contract.
Right.
And can he force his way to the Nets? Not really.
Not really.
No, I mean, he can try. He can say, I won't be happy there, and we'll see how much power he actually has.
Right.
But there might come up a better situation where he says, ooh, I kind of like that.
But Skip, if you look at the landscape, the Nets have the best package.
No, they don't. The Nets definitely don't have the best package, because you look at some of the stars that they have, they're just mid-level guys. And the Nets pretty much signed Karis LeVert to a pretty good deal, but he's not really getting you over the top, and he's very injury-prone. Spencer Dinwiddie is a pretty good player, but none of these guys are really getting you over the hill. Especially, man, like I said, Tillman Fertitta, he's worried about the ticket sales, the jersey sales, the merchandise. None of those guys are pushing the needle like James Harden is doing right now.
Is the Heat, what are the Heat willing to give up? The Heat not giving up Bam. They're not giving up Tyler Hero to get James Harden.
Knowing Pat Riley the way I do, I would never underestimate what he will come up with.
Skip, he's not giving up Bam.
Pat Riley would never pick up on James Harden. I highly doubt it, because there's a certain discipline that comes with playing for the Miami Heat. Your body fat got to be at a certain percentage. And, it's rumored that Pat Riley, man, playing for him, all the players know it takes a couple of years off your career. So I'm not sure if James Harden's going to be down with that.
You're not giving up Bam. Skip, I'm not.
Okay, I got it, because he's become the heart and soul of your whole franchise.
The Nets got the best package.
But listen, James Harden, he is a big difference maker. I realize that he doesn't have much to show for himself in the postseason.
Yeah.
And I realize he has come up smaller and smaller in the postseason. But he is so gifted. He is such a talent. He is so rare that he just doesn't come along very often to be available.
No.
Okay, so Nets, they have a lot of pieces they can give up. They might have to give up about 2/3 of their roster.
Yes. And you should be willing to, because like you said, these guys don't come available often.
They don't. Okay, so let's deal with the hypothetical. We mentioned it yesterday at the end of the show because we weren't sure about it, but now it sounds like James has said, I am not going to sign a $50 million deal.
Now, first of all, even if the Nets had a package, let's say with the players, you look at the draft picks that they have to send along with it. Come on, seriously. Are those draft picks even going to be worth it? We all know the Nets would set up to be good for the next couple of years. So the Rockets would have to look at the draft picks and be like, what are we really getting out of this? Late first-round draft picks and a bunch of, B-level guys. It's not really doing anything for them.
Here, an extension.
Yeah.
I want to go there. It's been widely reported he really wants to join forces with KD and Kyrie. Now, let's do the hypothetical. How would it work? So I slept on it last night, and I tried to think, okay, could it work? Well, if I ran the Nets, I would try to make it work because it's just so rare you get this kind of firepower.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we dealing with
Maybe
here?
never.
Maybe never. Well,
I'm pretty sure the Nets were thinking about it, but once again, that KD and Kyrie came as a BFF package, and I don't think Kyrie's going to be happy about that. Like I said, them showing all the clips of James Harden in the highlight reels, he's basically playing in Kyrie's position, and the spacing that he takes up on the court, is actually in Kyrie's spot. So I'm wondering how that's going to work out.
I mean, obviously,
KD and LeBron, but Skip, James Harden is average 36 last year before, 34 last year. He's a walking 30 points. And I'd rather watch him play than Russell has made the triple-double obsolete. But at least when I'm watching James Harden, I'm thinking, is he going to get me 60 tonight? Is it? Because that's the expectation. He get 35, you're like, man, James, you losing it.
okay.
I wonder if he could get the same 35 playing alongside other guys that have to kind of participate in the same way as far as usage. Because that's the main issue with James Harden, is getting another player to play right next to him. We see his best buddy, Russell, basically check out of that. And it's hard for other players to get used to playing a ball-dominant guard like that. That's one of the main issues here.
So we would throw together 3 players who have James Harden, 1 MVP, and 8 All-Stars. Yeah, that's a lot. KD has an MVP. It's back in 2014, but he's made 10 All-Star teams. And by the way, James has finished second 3 times and third once in the MVP. So he's right at the top year after year after year. And Kevin has finished second 3 times in the MVP race. Kyrie hasn't even registered in the MVP race, not one time, but he's 6 All-Stars, and he's got something James does not have. He's got a ring. And obviously, KD has 2 rings and 2 finals MVPs. So Kyrie can say, well, we're on equal footing because I made a shot that won a championship.
But they're not on equal footing.
Okay, I got it. I got it. But
You know damn well that's how Kyrie be thinking, man.
the clash that's going to start to happen. You have a coach who's a first-timer. He's never coached anywhere in his life than Steve Nash. And you have a KD and a Kyrie who said, what was it, like 3-4 weeks ago? We don't really need a coach. You don't?
I might coach, KD might coach.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if somehow you do add James Harden to this mix, you don't just need a coach. You need a referee. You need a policeman. You need somebody, right?
Skip is being polite, but he's trying to say there's a lot of fluff with these guys. You don't know what you're going to get. And these guys, their roles are going to be all over the place. And the coaching staff, they're not going to know how to manage it because it's their first time. And especially when you got a coach, well, I should say assistant coach like Mike D'Antoni on the bench, he doesn't even like yelling at players. So it's like, who's really going to hold one of these guys accountable? Because it's like a ticking time bomb. You know, one of these guys are going to get sort of, I don't want to say emotional, but they're going to kind of go off the rails just for a little bit. Who's going to basically wheel them back in?
A therapist, you need somebody to come in and rule over this, because one basketball for 3 people who need the basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, so which player would I trust the most?
KD doesn't really need the basketball, but at times he does grow frustrated. We've seen it play out in Golden State, where sometimes he did want the ball. And, you know, KD is the type of person, he's not going to say nothing at first, but after a while, when it boils up, you're going to get a mega reaction out of him, and you're going to wonder where the hell is it coming from. But, you know, because of his, you know, kind of passive-aggressive nature. And, you know, this is not going to really work out for all 3 of these guys. They kind of have the same temperament here. Like Skip said, I wonder who's going to really wheel this in.
In this 3-way relationship, it'd be Durant.
KD,
because,
yeah, absolutely.
To your point, he's a walking 30 points. Well, that was the old Iguodala quote going back a couple of years ago, and the rest of the quote was, he'll get you 30 points on 12 shots.
Right.
That's very, very hard to do, very efficient. Most guys need to feel the ball in their hands to get a rhythm. He doesn't, okay? So you have that going for you that when you look at what 2017, when he went to Golden State in the regular season and even in the postseason, he averaged only the 3rd most shots on the team, and he won Finals MVP.
And that's why he can do it, Skip, because he's used to playing. He did for 3 years. He played without the ball in his hand.
He had no choice to. He had to basically kowtow to that Stephen Curry in the Golden State system because it was proven successful. And that's exactly what he wanted. He wanted to get to the highest level. So he might as well go with the guys that already had the system in place. He couldn't fight against that.
Of the time.
He did.
Steph had the ball in his hands.
I agree.
The lion's share of the time. So there's no problem with him. It's Kyrie and James.
Okay.
How do they do?
Okay, I believe James would be somewhat willing to sacrifice because he needs a ring. So he did sacrifice.
For a moment, once things start to go astray and championships are not really possible, the same way Russell Westbrook realized, then you'll see things begin to go left, because These guys gonna only want to sacrifice their points if there's pretty much a guaranteed championship.
Pointed out yesterday, his usage rate, which is how much time do you have the ball in your hands, although his is like this, right? Right. He didn't actually hold on to the ball. He just dribbles and dribbles it until the air comes out of the ball.
You know, it's funny because Kobe Bryant also said the way James Harden plays, that dribble, dribble, dribble all the time, you can't win championships like that.
But the point is, his usage rate fell to third last year when he's led the league a couple of times, going back a couple. Okay, all right. So would he defer in the beginning to Kyrie? He might, but again, Kyrie definitely needs the ball in his hands.
Right.
He's not the highest usage rate, but he wants to run the show because he's much more of a pure point guard than James is. Even
and Kyrie's also an artist, man. He's definitely an artist with that basketball. Those crossovers, those moves, dribbling. Kyrie's an artist, and to have a guy like James Harden who's just doing these funny looking step backs that could be a travel. It's just going to take, it's just a ticking time bomb.
we know Kyrie can score 52.
Right.
So to me, I tweeted about this last night. To me, the over-under on Kyrie hating playing with James Harden would be like one game.
Yeah.
Seriously, because it's not what he's ever known, because even LeBron would share with him like crazy when they first started playing together the first time around.
LeBron?
And you can also look at going into Miami with LeBron and Wade and Bosh. They had to make major adjustments within the first 10 games. Remember, they were struggling, and those guys were at the highest level around that time. I believe the 2011, 2010, around that time frame, these guys were at least top 10 easily, top 5. You could argue that Wade, Bosh, LeBron was all in there, and these guys were struggling against teams with lesser talent because the chemistry wasn't right.
Give Kyrie the ball and go stand in the corner. Okay, do your thing.
Do your thing. But that's LeBron. He is a ball sharer. We know that. And he always wanted to do whatever it took to make it work.
Correct.
Well, I just don't know that James.
I wouldn't say LeBron's a ball sharer. LeBron has the ball in his hands most of the time, is that his IQ is pretty high.
Even understands how to do that.
I don't either.
Right? And so Kyrie versus James would be a nightly battle about, and Kyrie, as we know, James doesn't say much after games, but Kyrie is known to just blurt out whatever's on his mind to the detriment of his team. Right? So I would think he would cause nothing but problems. And if he had a veteran coach overseeing, I don't know, a Doc or a Phil Jackson or somebody who's been there and done all that with superstars, won rings before, maybe that kind of a coach and mentor could say, hey, we need to do this to get to that.
Right.
Well, Steve Nash can't do that. They're not going to listen to Steve Nash.
And of course, Mike D'Antoni's not going to do that. Mike D'Antoni's just going to say, hey guys, let's just go. If you ever see highlights of Mike D'Antoni, it could be a stressful situation, whatever the situation is. Everything is just go.
First year coach, and I get it. You look in and you say, well, Steve, you look at Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr, first year, he didn't have these kind of personalities. He had Steph Curry. Well, basically, you got two Steph Currys and a mini Steph in Kyrie, because James Harden believes he's the equal to Steph. KD believes he's better than Steph.
He does.
At the worst.
Absolutely.
So how does a first-year coach come in and says, okay, guys, Skip, you say it's going to work. I don't know how you ask a guy that's averaging over 30 points a game the last 3 years, say, I'm going to need you to bump that down, take that down to about 23, 24. And I'm going to need KD, you going to get your 25, 26. And Kyrie says, well, hey, what about my 24, 25?
Yep.
I don't know how you do that, Skip, because Mike D'Antoni, whose system that Steve Kerr is going to implement, couldn't do it with Russ and Harden. At the end of the day, for whatever reason, Russ.
But he did it well with Russ and CP3. But then imagine they had another person in there. I mean, you could look at that early part, that 2016, 2017 season. They had Eric Gordon. I think he was averaging around 16 points a game. So it seems like whoever's going to be that third fiddle is going to have to be somewhere around that ballpark. And I'm not sure if these guys, the Eagles, are going to allow them to even be around that. That's borderline role player right there.
Either wanted more touches or wanted to be more involved in the offense. Something transpired that said, Russ says, I need to leave. Now, they can say whatever reasons they want to be. I still love James Harden, but something transpired that Russ wanted to get out of Houston.
AKA, he realized Houston wasn't going to win shit. So what is he sacrificing his points for? he might as well go on his own and do his thing.
Something is going on now that, and we believe that he was not conferred with about the change of the general manager and the head coach. Okay, fine, I get that. But Skip, something went wrong that all of a sudden Russ wanted out.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's my best friend. That's my boy. That's my boy. Skip, we grew up together. We know each other. But you know what? We still gonna be boys. But I don't want to play over here anymore.
Because it's obvious they can't win. I mean, you could look at last season in the bubble. They pretty much got mollywopped by the fucking Lakers.
Yep. And I thought it worked about as well as it could have.
Yes, I agree.
And even Russ said no to that. Well, good luck to him, because I have no idea. It's either Knicks or Charlotte with Michael Jordan, because Michael just needs another sideshow, right? He needs.
But is Michael going to spend that money with no fans in the stands? That's the real question. Who's going to spend that money for a guy that's not even going to get you probably even to the second round of the playoffs, even in the Eastern Conference? People got to question these things, because remember, the last two images we got of Russell Westbrook in OKC is Damian Lillard in the first round waving bye-bye. And then a rookie and Donovan Mitchell at the time was cutting. When I say he was cutting their ass, getting deep in that ass in the first round, not only against Westbrook and against Paul George. So, you know, that kind of raises a lot of eyebrows right there.
To draw. Okay, so the reason I'm struggling with this is I have already picked the Nets before any of this happened to win the East, with KD, Kyrie added to, what do we see at the end of the bubble regular season?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, LeVert, and we didn't even have Dinwiddie, wasn't even with them, but Jared Allen, those three players, and then you got Taurean Prince, and you got DeAndre Jordan for whatever's left in him, and Garrett Temple. They got a nice team that was playing at a pretty high level without KD and Kyrie.
And that's what the thought process was.
Well, that's what happens when you get stars. All of a sudden, you know, the big guys are in, and they have different motives. See, all those young guys, they're pretty much in their phase where they're trying to make a name for themselves in the league. They're trying to basically get accolades. But when you get superstar players like Kyrie and KD, who are already accomplished at the highest level, they're at a different point in their career. See, that right there is when things begin to clash. I'm pretty sure, you know, we haven't seen the same fun dancing that the Nets be doing in the bench. It hasn't looked the same because, of course, now you got more established guys on the team, and it changes the whole aura.
Watching them in the bubble, and you say when they get these two guys back with what they already have, man, they're going to be to deal with. If they can blend this thing together, now, Skip, look, sometimes you can have too much of ingredients. You know how you make a dish, you're like, man, this tastes good. Man, I wonder if I add this a little bit more nutmeg, a little bit vanilla.
Yep.
Bro, Skip, you can add too much ingredients to a dish, and it won't be good.
Definitely. You could look at the 2004 Lakers when they added Karl Malone and Gary Payton. There was way too many ingredients going on with that squad, and we seen them get basically dusted by a well-put-together team with actually no mega superstar in the Detroit Pistons.
This might be adding too much ingredients to a dish and not make it well.
It could be, and yet this team with all these nice other players, all those nice other players are going to have to be gone.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're going to have your big three and what? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe
you got to fill in the pieces.
Maybe you only have three starters a night, right? That might work. It might be revolutionary. They'll just play three players.
Yeah, so you...
Yeah, I'm wondering how that's going to work in order to have all those guys on those max contracts. I believe they will have KD on a max contract because he was given that by Golden State, then had a signing trade to the Nets. James Harden would be also on a hometown max contract. It'll only be Kyrie. He's on a free agent max contract deal. Other than that, I mean, it's going to leave very little room to get guys to surround those guys.
You're going to probably lose LeVert, Dinwiddie, Prince, Allen, and at the bare minimum, 3 picks.
Okay. All right. Now, what I slept on was, what have I always been taught back to my days with Phil Jackson, Jerry Krause in Chicago, and even before that with Dick Motta in Dallas? What is the mantra of the National Basketball Association? You win with stars, superstars. What happened? LeBron finally said, after that first go-round in Cleveland,
yes, you win with stars, but you don't have to jam-pack, mega stars who actually take up the same space in the court. Having 2 stars should be enough. You can get good key pieces to surround them with. When you just get 2 stars surrounded by a 3rd star that plays the same exact position the same way, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to equate to a victory.
I just need stars.
Yes.
I got a lot of nice pieces here, but
yeah.
I need stars. I need Dwayne and I need Chris Bosh.
Right.
And then we can fill around it with a lot of nice pieces. And all those nice pieces helped out when in his first run to his first ring, right? But you got to have superstars to win it all. Here, obviously, LeBron needed Anthony Davis.
Right.
You can give him all those kids you want. All those kids who are with the Pelicans now.
Yep, doing it.
But you can only go so far with those kids so far because they all haven't arrived yet. Maybe at some point they will arrive.
That's why I say the Rockets making that trade and getting all those little B- pieces from Brooklyn, it doesn't really equate to anything for them. Especially those draft picks that they'll eventually get from Brooklyn, they're not going to equal up to a top lottery pick at all because the Nets will be that good for a number of years. So that's why I said the trade to the Rockets, it's unlikely that's going to happen.
But when I woke up this morning, I thought, well, wait a second. If I'm running the Nets and you told me I could have KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, maybe I just bite the bullet. You know, I just close my eyes and I say, it's so much firepower. It's historic combination of firepower.
Yeah, that's a hell of a bullet to bite, but you got to remember, the game itself only has a number of shots in the game because, of course, the game is set on a time limit. It's not like all these guys have enough time for each of them to jack up about 40 shots each. It's not going to work out like that.
Possible. We've never seen anything quite like this. I mean, you can say KD to Golden State, but is this beyond that?
Yeah, I believe so, Skip. But here's the thing. The reason why LeBron and AD work is that they're two different players.
Absolutely. And plus, they're represented by the same company, which is obviously LeBron's company, but still, they became big brother, little brother right away to where they seem like they're best friends to me.
Right. Bird and McHale work because they did different things.
Totally.
Kyrie and James Harden is basically, Kyrie is a smaller version,
Bird and McHale operated in two different spaces in the court. You know, McHale down low was unstoppable. And then Bird will operate in the wings, giving passes and hitting jump shots. Kyrie and James Harden operating in the same space in the court. That's not going to work out.
And the version of James Harden.
Yep.
Pat the rock, get my shot, pat. Oh, clock running down, pass to someone else.
Okay. Well, how about the Showtime link?
AKA your turn, my turn bullshit.
Yeah.
With Magic running the show and James Worthy on the wing and Kareem.
There were three great players, Skip, but they all did different things.
Completely different, and they meshed like this.
Right. And so Kareem didn't need, Skip, Kareem didn't need the ball.
No. And he had low ego. He wasn't a complainer.
Right.
He just played.
Ooh, all three of these guys got high egos. All three of them do. Yeah, this is not looking good.
Now think about that. Kareem, the year that Magic got there, Kareem was the MVP.
Yep.
Kareem was the MVP of the league. Now, how many guys you know, Skip? I'm the MVP of the league, and this rookie comes in, win Finals MVP. I'm gonna need more shots. I need me, because he's trying to steal my shine.
Yep.
Kareem like, hey, and Magic was finding up this Cap. He still refers to him as Cap. Hey, we're gonna run the break. Now, if we don't got the break, Skip, hey, Cap, get down on the block. Let me throw you this ball. You can throw this sky hook on him. Skip, like I said, they're unbelievable talent. James Harden is as gifted scorer as that we've seen. And if you talk about Magic, you talk about Mike, you talk about Kobe. James Harden is right there with them as far as scoring the basketball. I'm not saying he's a better player, but I'm saying putting the ball in the basket. James Harden is equal to those guys.
Well, he's the greatest perimeter scorer I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And you also got to look at the rules of the game. They actually favor him in this era.
So, but Kyrie and KD, Skip, man.
Okay, it has disaster written all over it, but I promise you, if you were in charge of the Nets, when push came to shove, if the deal's on the table, I think you just close your eyes and say, I got to try this.
You might have.
Damn, that's really tough. But if the Nets, to me, if they had the proper coaches, like a real kind of drill sergeant coach, I don't want to say a guy like Phil Jackson, but the same temperament as like Phil Jackson or Pat Riley, almost a guy that's viewed like a wizard, where players can't really go against what their teachings are, I would say then it could possibly work. But the fact that they got Steve Nash, which is pretty mellow, Mike D'Antoni, pretty mellow, you know, Amari Stoudemire, all these brand new young assistant coaches, it's not a good recipe right there.
Too. Even though you know it might cause an explosion, you're like, you know what, hey.
Hey, would you not be the focal point of the basketball world
yeah.
from here to China? That's all anybody would be talking about is, oh my God.
Everybody's loading up.
Yeah.
You look at these trades, Skip, everybody's loading up, and what Michael Jordan and a few owners were afraid of is that you're going to have 4 or 5 teams, and then everybody else just.
Yeah. Okay. So would you rather be Michael?
Trust me, with the financial situation in the league right now, owners are not worried about that because whoever spends that money goes over that luxury tax like that, especially without selling any hard tickets to fans. They could bite that bullet. They're gonna share that rest of that revenue with the rest of the small market teams.
Jordan with Russell Westbrook as your solo star, or would you rather sit up in Brooklyn and you had KD, Kyrie, and James Harden?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think you'd try that.
Yeah, because that's what you're going with, Skip. You're going with guys. You look at what's transpiring, Skip.
Yep.
We'll talk about Milwaukee, what they did. You see what the Lakers are trying to do. You see what Brooklyn's trying to do. Like I said, it's going to be 4 or 5 teams, and then the other 25, y'all you got no chance. But it's fun. It's going to be fun watching, but you got no chance.
I wouldn't say that because they felt that same way about the Clippers last season, and we see how that worked out. Got to have chemistry. And like I said, in the beautiful game of basketball, there's a time limit. So it's not like these guys could jack up each 40 to 30 shots. You know, guys, it's only 24 seconds in the shot clock, and then each quarter only lasts a certain amount of minutes. So these guys are going to have to figure it out. But for now, this is pretty much all he say, she say. Because once again, James Harden, he kind of said everything was kind of a lie. He kind of hinted that on his Instagram. He is not down of just staying with the Houston Rockets long term. He's not committing to them because that's pretty much what that extension is all about. Trying to lock him in for 4 more years. And this pretty much could be him just trying to stronghold the Rockets into making better decisions and putting together a winning team for the moment right now. So it is what it is. Until next time, you guys stay safe. Peace.